Doflamingo, you're just a big old brat, aren't you? This chapter of One Piece, I loved it. I mean, we finally get a lot of backstory for Doflamingo, and in a way, I'm glad that it's not what I expected it to be. I had this image in my head about what his backstory was going to be, and I guess in a way, yeah, it's good that it didn't turn out that way, because then I'll be like, it's predictable. I know where this guy's coming from. But, it didn't turn out that way. Good. Keep me on my toes. And also there's progression with the Fujitora versus Sabo fight. Although it doesn't end, with a winner. In fact, it just ends like Fujitora and Sabo apparently just stopped fighting, and they both agreed that what's going on in this island needs to be stopped, and neither one of them can be the heroes of the island. And I like how Fujitora does that. It goes into more of his character. He's a lot like Smoker when he left Luffy to take down Crocodile in Alabasta. So it's like, the Navy can't be the heroes this time. We can't get involved because Doflamingo still has, he still has power over the people. He's still a representative of the world government, and it's up to Luffy to be the one to take him down. So I like that. Fujitora really is a very interesting character, and I'm glad he's an admiral, because recently the only admiral that I found morally interesting was Aokiji, but now he's no longer an admiral. So I'm glad that now they have replacements, and Fujitora is still able to stand alone as a character and still show that honor and dignity that Aokiji did. And even Sabo, I like his little character moment where Koala is telling him what the hell he's doing, getting out of line and going out fighting admirals. It's like, hey, I don't care what their plan was. My brother was in trouble. I wasn't going to let him, get hurt. And I like that. In fact, it's a lot like what Luffy would do. In fact, when you think about it, Ace and Luffy were completely different. And in a good way, it's good that they were both different. And I get it, they're not actually brothers, but they were still raised together. So they have to share some similarities in personality. But Ace, other than, the eating and the sleeping, really didn't have the personality of Luffy. He wasn't as brash. He was still a logical thinker. He still cared about Nakama, but he was more calm about it when he confronted Blackbeard, unlike Luffy, who's quick to anger. But here Sabo shows that he's a lot like Luffy in some way, in his brash nature. He doesn't really care about the plan or what the Revolution Army is doing, even though he is second in command. He's just like, hey, my brother was in trouble. That's the only reason I really got involved in this whole mess in the first place. And I'm glad to see that. In fact, it makes me wonder exactly what are the qualifications of how he became second in command. Did Dragon really just make him second in command because he's that powerful? Because we've learned that there are actually other leaders other than Dragon. So maybe he just made him second in command to keep, kept him closer because he reminded him a lot of Luffy, or the fact he was just amazed at how dedicated he was to his love for his brothers. And that just made him feel like he was one of his own sons. So maybe he's showing a bit of favoritism within the Revolutionary Army. I don't know, maybe. But then we get to the real major part of this chapter, and that's Doflamingo's flashback. He's getting up, he's pissed off, and of course he immediately takes down Law and Luffy really quickly. Although I will say Law was amazing when he described the move he just used, Radio Knife, against Treble. Apparently the electricity is probably messing with his nervous system, and that's why it's difficult for him to put his body back together. So he's just like in pieces right there on the floor. So all right, and it looks like he's about to try to finish Treble off, just to even make it easier to take down Doflamingo. But Doflamingo immediately just rushes there and just kicks the sword out of the way, and it's difficult to say what move he's using. It's called Fulbright, and it looks like he's maybe like throws strings into the air and then it comes back down, like arrows through Law's body. It's difficult to see what kind of move he's using. But I'm wondering, like, yeah, he's quick to defend Treble, you know, his own crewmate. So again, Doflamingo, he loves his family. And then he immediately rushes to Luffy, you know, and then gets behind him and ties his hands together with string. And immediately, both Law and Luffy down for the count. Like, damn, Doflamingo, once he gets serious, he gets serious. So I'm glad to see, like, oh, that was a lucky hit, you guys. That was a lucky. We had to come up with new plans on the fly. And I like seeing those kinds of fights. And then we get a flashback of Doflamingo. And this is where I'm taking for a surprise, because it's so easy to predict how it was gonna be as a kid that it almost made me feel like I shouldn't predict it that way. I felt like I should come up with a different outcome of how his past went. But because of that, I was surprised by how simple his backstory is. Apparently, he was, you know, again a noble, Tenryubuto, but he wasn't abused in any way. He wasn't, you know, disgusted with being a noble. He actually acted like any other noble child. He was entitled. He was self-indulgent. He liked his power. He's going around, even as a kid, still wearing sunglasses. I mean, he has an obsession with those. And he's going around saying, "Daddy, where are the slaves? Daddy, this person talked back to me. I want him dead." It's like, damn, Doflamingo. Oh. Yeah, but apparently his father is a nice guy. I mean, I guess he was trying to take back all the bad reputation that the Don Quixote family had, and actually threw away their title of as a Tenryubuto to go back to living with the normal people. And but I'm guessing because of that they didn't grow any immunities to disease or the common air. His wife, you know, Doflamingo's mother, got sick, and then she died. And now it's hard to say if Doflamingo was saddened by this. I mean, they hint that it was possibly a big moment in his life, and that it affected him in some way. But by this flashback, it's hard to say if that's the reason why Doflamingo hated his father enough to kill him. Because if you just read nothing but, you know, if you just read it and don't look into it anymore, immediately the first thing that comes to your head is he wanted his power back, and he got pissed that his father never asked the rest of the family if they wanted to just leave their titles behind. So he immediately cut his father's head off and brought it to the nobles in hopes that it would, you know, take back what his fathers did and reinstate him as a noble. Of course, the other nobles are saying, "No, you lost your place in 9. No cut backsies." Like, and then Doflamingo just says, "Well, screw them. Then I'm going to destroy their world." I'm guessing that means I'm going to destroy their sense of nobility. Like, if I can lose my nobility, they can lose their nobility too. So immediately, just from that, and from when Doflamingo says, "You children don't understand what I've been through," at first glance, it made me feel like Doflamingo is just throwing a huge tantrum. A huge tantrum for the last 30 years. That's pretty much what it sounds like. It's like, I want my power. No, then screw you guys and I'm gonna kill people. It's like, holy shit, Doflamingo, you're just a brat. You never grew up. He's like, "I don't have time for your kiddie games." You are pretty much like a kid. But he did mention this one line: "Because of my father, I had already seen both heaven and hell by the time I was 8 years old." So I'm wondering exactly, maybe there was more than just his mother's death. Because if I'm remembering, they said his mother died when he was 8, and he killed his father when he was 10. So maybe that's 2 years. But again, so 2 years, maybe something more happened. Like, maybe he was laughed at, humiliated, or maybe he was abused in some way by other people because of what his father did. And maybe he encountered war too early. Who knows? Because I don't want to think that he's only doing this because the world government won't give him his power back. However, he does have control of CP0 and a Marine Admiral. So he does have power. But here's what I'm thinking. Maybe because he became a warlord I know it's really hard to say real quick, but I'm just gonna say warlord. He was able to make a deal with the 5 Elder Stars, saying, "Hey, I'll serve the government in the best way I can, and since I'm a former Tenryubuto, let's make a deal, and I'll do whatever you guys tell me to do, but I want some of my power back." So now that's why he's able to control CP0 and the Marine Admiral. While he doesn't officially have the title, the world still refers to him as Doflamingo, a pirate, a warlord. He has the power of a Tenryubuto without the actual title. So maybe that's why he's going around killing Gecko Moria, saying the 5 Elder Stars told me to kill you, and in return, they would give me some of my powers back as a Tenryubuto. And that's interesting. That's like, okay, now there's shady deals going on here between Doflamingo and the 5 Elder Stars, because I can't imagine anyone else who would have that power to give him the power of a Tenryubuto to Doflamingo. So now it seems like it's gonna be more difficult to really get rid of Doflamingo permanently. But again, maybe just defeating him with 5 Elder Stars will determine, the deal's off, you're gone. Yeah, that would bring you in level 6. You never existed. Even a noble like you never existed, and that's kind of sad in a way, because I kind of see how that's gonna go, because I can't imagine Doflamingo can be left out in the open. Especially since he's a former Tenryubuto. If people find out that a pirate as notorious as him is a Tenryubuto, how would they react? How would the world react? That's really a big question. But anyway, yeah, there's still a lot of mystery behind Doflamingo. I can't wait to see more, and I still can't wait to see more of Law's backstory. It does seem like recently these chapters with the flashbacks are more back and forth. Like, there are moments of what's going on in the present, and then out of nowhere there's flashbacks to the past and these characters. And I don't know if that's a new style Eiichiro Oda is doing, because usually it's a present, and then out of nowhere it's just three chapters of flashback. So in a way, I'm glad they're doing this back and forth thing. It's a little jarring at first, but it progresses the story while it's still giving us information about where these characters are coming from, and it's good. However, if they do change this, if they do go a full focus a full like little mini arc towards flashbacks, that's fine too, because there's still a lot of information I'm waiting for, especially about Doflamingo and Law. But yeah, I mean, there's just more and more mysteries of Doflamingo. He's such an interesting character, even right now, even though I suspect his reasonings are so simple. In a way, actually, it's like a Shakespearean villain. Sometimes their goals are so simple, and yet the methods they'll go through to accomplish these goals is just over the top, and just really, what are they thinking? It fascinates me, about what are their thought processes and how they came to this conclusion. Like, in order to accomplish this, I have to go through all this. It's like, damn, dude. I mean, there's got to be easier ways. So, yeah, Doflamingo, and even the Doflamingo family, like his pirate crew. I mean, they call him Young Master. Whose idea was that? Was it theirs? Were they servants of him and when he was a noble in their palace? Or has he told them to call him that as a way to remember the days when he was a noble and could be called that? So again, interesting character progression. I want more about Doflamingo. I really do. And Law. So I can't wait for the next chapter. So until then, I'm Tony Dragon. Bye bye.